Your screen.
Unless I need to write in sit down folder, but I don't.
Good, thank you.
I have a notepad, I can. Chris,
Remember our conversation? Oh, yeah. Her address is Riesling.
Is she flying Riesling too? Are we missing a couple?
yeah.
They're with them right now.
Okay.
Devin Moore.
Sure.
Oh, yep.
My desktop is good, it's my Google Drive that's not great.
There's salads, if anybody wants.
It's just full, I should say. Probably not. Yours looks very obvious. Always gets, although it's only Tuesday. Yeah, he throws it into a folder. He kind of does one of those things and sweeps it into a folder for the week.
Much planted yet?
I got all my alfalfa planned out. 100 acres or so of that. Soybeans this weekend. And then wait for it to warm up a little bit before corn. Well, it's just, when it gets into the lows of the 30s, corn will just be sitting there. We're getting a lot of stuff done.
It's good for the soil to come up when it gets frosty like that.
Be awfully busy, there's just in time for pop concerts, graduation.
Because that's why I checked the schedule. Thursday night. People come in.
I just don't get it.
Was there in the afternoon.
Okay, there it is.
Cute.
At this time, I'll call the school board meeting for the school district of Glenwood City to order. I don't even see a roll call there. Oh, that's later. Okay. So our new board members, you completed your oaths of office? Amy?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So we're good there. Any other, I don't think we need to talk about anything else on that item. Item C is new board member orientation. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is just a reminder for everyone, and I think when a new president is decided upon tonight, but I wanted to include the information that I go through with our two new board members in our individual meetings. The new board member information packet has been updated. It's always a good reminder on various things, and we had that in service with WSB. And again, just it's a learning process, so just wanted to point it out as new board members, when things change quickly, and these are the documents that I go through with our new board members during their orientation. That's it.
Okay. Jordan, you did that last year. You had a positive experience with that.
Yeah, with the WASB orientation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I sat next to one of the Boyceville new board members too, so it's kind of good to meet other administrators and board members.
Okay, roll call, all members are present. Board Financial Audit is item E. Derek, you wanna go first?
Yeah, I can. Jordan, I met with Ms. Newman and Ms. Shepherd. My question wasn't really around a specific receipt or one of the payments that was made. It was more around processes. And the question was around what are our biggest risks for financial processes and misuse of funds. And Ms. Newman had expounded a little bit around fundraising and things to watch for where there's high potential for cash and making sure that there's two people counting or some type of way to make sure that it's audited to the numbers. And so it seems like there's probably room for improvement. There's not a known concern, but just ways that we can make sure we can solidify, making sure that the funds that are collected in those type of situations are accounted for.
Sure. Do you have anything?
Yeah, and I had kind of 4 that I pulled. 2 of them kind of aligned with the consent agenda. So one of them was our speech therapy contracts that I think are in the consent agenda, and one of them was an invoice for that. The other was for Oak Ridge Chemicals. I think there were some motors and stuff for one of the floor scrubbers. So kind of wanted to review that, seeing there was some information in the consent agenda regarding floor scrubbers. And then another one was an Amazon purchase that was $2,500 that was labeled as miscellaneous. So I think a lot of the naming conventions and the descriptions in some of those credit card purchases, Amazon purchases that can kind of get out of hand are improving. A lot of them were named and had good descriptions, but good to flag others. And then Stephen Lee had gotten reimbursed for some training for substitute teaching. So I thought that was kind of a good comparable, check the receipts on that. So then kind of talking to that too, is those are all good categories of things to look for. So with new school board members, it was kind of, how do we look through, the agenda and the invoices and pick what we audit. So talked about maybe creating a good kind of checklist or prioritization list to help give us an idea of what we should look for.
Sure, great. Everything looked good. Yeah, okay, thank you. Item F is review of policy, the 6,000s.
So I will, Derek and I talked, he had a couple different that I would just want to answer to the whole group. So the first one is policy 6800, which is systems of accounting. And his question was the definition of a business manager. And the business manager can be, it just depends on the size of the district. So in New Richmond, I had a director of finance, and then we had accountants, which that was one of them. Here in Prairie Farm, where it was just similar to here, you have it just depends on the degree. If they're an accountant, you call them accountant. Some of them just call them a business manager if they have a 2-year degree. So it just varies, but it means the same thing. So does that answer your question?
Yep, it's very.
Right. So the second one, he actually caught, which was great. Some of these were pulled over from the previous policies from 2010. It was 6670, and the line is trust and agency funds. And ironically, that should have been pulled and not added to the list because DPI sunset those descriptions in 2020. So based on that, it used to be Fund 60, which is where all activities such as basketball and if you were a coach, that's where your account was. Well, they moved it to Fund 21. So I have the descriptions here, but they were retired. And then I also printed out all our so-called trusts, if you will. They're not necessarily trusts, but it's the scholarships, it's some of those different things. So that's one, if I can get this back there, but looking at that is definitely one that we can pull because the language is no longer being used.
That's good. I've never heard that term before, so I'm glad that it didn't exist.
The next one is purchasing, and this was 6320. And in there, Derek had a question as far as if a bid is given, who else witnesses it? And basically it comes down to line items of 15,000 or under, and then there's a line item of 25,000 or more. And typically if it's 25,000, you're doing an RFP, an official RFP bid process, possibly sealed bids. It just depends on. And we've done very few here in my time. In terms of the others, it's a price, quotes and so forth. And basically it usually goes between myself and the supervisor. So if it's Tim, like tonight, the floor scrubber, him and I go back and forth and we're doing it together. So if you see the exact language, it says bid shall be sealed. Typically, again, unless it's an official RFP, for example, when we did the parking lots, that was a sealed bid through CISA 10. So, and then some of the renovations, but otherwise, again, we're working through a process. So certainly things that we can, as prices increase, we might get to the point of increasing those numbers, but they're at a good basic, because it also says 2 price quotes. I usually try to do at least 3. And an understanding of one of the questions that also came up with from Amy was, I'll talk about it later, but I talked about the Tribune getting the acknowledgement and they would send out the survey for the referendum. Well, they didn't have a postage permit, so they could no longer take part in that process. So we had to do it with another company out of La Crosse. So just an example of we try to stay as local as possible and get the best price. Lowest price doesn't always win. There's a lot that goes into that bidding process. So does that answer your question? Okay. Then there's a couple others. There was a mistake. There was a math mistake on my part. And then the calendar, it was the wrong calendar in the board. Graduation was still at May 15th, which is not accurate. That was a mistake last week. So other than that, any other questions on the 6,000s?
I think I had one that was around, the audits, and I think we talked about it before, is do we want anything in policy as far as rotating audits or auditors or auditing companies? So that
We
don't get
typically
into
do, at least in my previous time, we always did it every 3 years, and just mixed it up. For the purposes, I have not brought that to you because I want to stay as consistent as possible till we get over this hump. I think for next year, we actually just scheduled our audit for August 10th this year, and just to create a little bit of consistency with CLA. CLA is not the culprit here. I mean, they didn't necessarily miss things. Could they have picked up on some of the items that we've talked about with Tim Johnson? Possibly. I mean, there's always that Monday morning quarterbacking, but in the same regard, yeah, you need to put it out to bid. And so there is plans for next year, but because last year we were doing 3 audits at once and so forth, we're going to create a little consistency to build off of and then open it up.
I think the only other one I had that was kind of what we talked about with Deb too is, we really don't have anything that outlines our monthly board audits. Is there anything that we should create policy wise that outlines the fact that we're doing that?
When we did this in my other district, there wasn't a meeting that went by that they didn't pull my stuff.
Right.
And that was just preference. And I'd encourage you to do that. I think you can put parameters around it, but it's the randomness that I think really plays into the audit process. Because if I give you specific, then it's, am I steering you in direction and so on. So we certainly can, but I would rather keep it just random and whatever you pull, because it's truly you engaging with our accountant and understanding, okay, without Patrick in the room, how our processes, put him out of the picture. So it's up to you.
Any other questions about the review of policy? Okay, move to item G to appoint a delegate for the annual convention at CISA 11 on June 1st, of this summer. Did you do it last year,
I
Derek?
think so. I think that was the
You
one,
did.
yeah.
You loved it.
It rained and, I had some coffee.
I've done it before. Jody, have you done it?
Yeah, I have. It's really cool.
Any volunteers to do that? Nobody's gonna volunteer.
What day does it fall on?
June first.
Monday night, I
Is it a
think?
Monday?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go, yeah.
Yeah.
June first.
No, it's Monday.
Okay, I think it's is it in Barron again?
Turtle Lake.
Or Turtle
Turtle
Lake,
Lake,
yeah.
It almost sounded like you volunteered, Nicole, when you asked what day it was.
Alright. You know what? I can do that,
Okay.
I can do that.
So let's go through the motions, huh? I'll move to have Nicole as our delegate for the annual convention at CISA.
Second.
Second from Derek. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you are our delegate. Thank you very much. Now, item H, we will appoint an alternate delegate for that same meeting. Any volunteers to be our alternate?
I could be backup,
Okay,
no problem.
Motion to appoint Jordan as the alternate delegate.
okay, motion by Derek, second for that motion? I'll second it. Why not? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Jordan is our alternate delegate for that convention. Okay, so item I, Patrick, if you want to walk us through some of these.
Yeah,
things that-
I'm not gonna go through this, but in your leisure time, these are things that we talk about. I have a CISA meeting this Friday, which one of our speakers is some DBI delegates. So I encourage you in terms of the legislative group plus DPI and how they can't seem to get along, but an understanding of some of the things that have changed specific to K-12. It's 12 pages, so there's some things in here. Other than that, I haven't gone through it in great detail. This actually just came out, so the session isn't necessarily over. There might be a special session based on the special education and the surplus. So we'll talk more about this, but I wanted to put it at least in front of you, because these are some of the things that certainly dictate various policy too as we operate.
Great. Okay, moving on. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Motion is made by Derek. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Scott. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have open forum now. I don't think we have any community members. No, we're good.
I
Okay.
guess one thing before we get into the board reorganization, because I know that's kind of the first agenda item, is it would be great, I think, if we get some feedback from our new board members. I know last year it was kind of, we just went right into voting for president and voting for officers. And I know I had a lot of feedback that you guys didn't do any of the interview in the papers, so it'd be really good to get a background of who you are, what you do for work, or what made you want to run for school board. Kind of some of that, just basic background, I think would be good.
If you want, I mean,
Go ahead, Miller.
I can start. Yep, so Nicole Miller. I have 3 children here in the school district of Glenwood City. We have been here for just about 20 years. We own a business north of here on 64. We did dairy farming and now we own Miller Sandblasting and Painting. I have a freshman, 7th grader, and a 4th grader. We are very involved, trying to be involved in the community as much as we can. Our kids mean the world to us. So we can try and do what we can, and I actually have the ability to be here and do some of this stuff that I'm able to do, and I'm very thankful for that. I was on the school board a few years ago. Yeah. And need to take a little break. and realize my kids are still here. All the kids need me within the district. I don't know how much of an impact I will make, but I am going to try to do the best I can for everyone that I can. And that's why I came on board again. I'm in here for the long haul. We're not going anywhere.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, well, I'm Amy Dopkins. I have 4 children. My eldest graduated, during COVID, they were actually homeschooled that last year. So I have her. My second, Cole, he went through the special ed program here. He has pretty high needs, and so I've worked a lot with that from kindergarten all the way up. My third is a senior over at St. Croix Central. He chose to transfer due to the incidences here that, as you all are aware of. And my youngest, he's a sophomore here. He also had transferred to St. Croix Central, but chose to come back with the new administration and things looking up and up. And so he's back here and he's enjoying it. We have been in the community for 27 years, I don't know, somewhere around there. Been involved with basketball board, coaching here, basketball, volleyball, reffing. I really like the kids. I substitute taught here for quite a few years. Just really enjoyed the kids and being around them. We have a business in Menominee that allows me to have a little bit of freedom to be able to do these things. And the reason why I ran for school board is because I have always been taught, can't complain about it if you don't try and do something about it. So that's why I ran, because I would like to help and make things better here and fix the community, heal some wounds and, really move forward with this school, because it is a good school and it is good kids and there are good people here in the administration and the teachers, and a lot of them have suffered. So that was my reason. Can't complain about it if you don't do something about it.
Thank you.
Welcome, guys.
Yeah, welcome. So, I just wanted to go over a couple things before we do this. If you nominate somebody for a position, you do not need a second. If you want to second, you can, just to show your support, but you do not need a second. So if you're nominated, the first one while I'm doing it, I will ask if you accept the nomination. And it's either yes or no. So I don't think we want to nominate somebody who necessarily doesn't want that position. So I would ask if they want it, if they're willing to serve. You can self-nominate. If that is something you want to do, it totally is an option. And one other thing I wanted to bring up, this is the only instance where we operate as a board where this can be a secret ballot. And because this isn't like an election, this is like the board officers serve at the pleasure of the board. So if there was anybody who wanted to or if we as a group decided as a majority that we wanted to do a secret ballot, I know that is an option. I wasn't, totally aware of that. And we've never done secret ballots for officers before. I don't have an opinion on any of that, but I wanted you to be aware that is an option. So if anybody wants to do a secret ballot, otherwise I would just say we'll do like just a hand raise if we need to do that. Does anybody have a preference one way or the other?
Hand works fine.
Good, Jordan's good with a hand? Okay, we're good with hand, okay. And that's just for this one. I'm not in charge of the next ones necessarily, so we'll just go with it. The next person can change their mind and they can do whatever they want. All right, so at this time I will accept nominations for board president.
I nominate Chuck Drexler.
Okay, thank you. I will accept that nomination.
I nominate Derek Overly.
Derek, can you accept?
I would accept.
Are there any more nominations? Are there any more nominations? Okay, so we will vote for Chuck or Derek. If you want myself, Chuck, to be the board president, please raise your hand. Okay, that's 2. For Derek Oberly to be board president, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, my work here is done. It's all yours.
Okay.
Do we
thank
have
you,
to
Chuck.
have a motion?
No,
No?
Okay, thank you, Chuck, and thank you to the board members for trusting me, but rest assured, it doesn't give me any more power than anybody else in this room, so. Okay, next we'll open up the nominations for the board vice president.
I nominate Scott Lingerfeld for vice president.
Scott, do you accept that nomination?
I do.
Do we have any other nominations for vice president?
I'll name it Chuck Drexler.
I'm gonna decline.
Chuck declines. Are there any
I'd
other?
self-nominate.
Okay, Jordan? I want to ask if you accept that nomination.
I do.
Are there any other nominations? Are any other nominations? Any other nominations? All right, we'll close nominations. We'll go to the vote. So we've got 2 nominations, Scott Lingerfeld and Jordan for vice president. All those in favor for Scott, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. And all those for Jordan, please raise your hand. 2, 3. Scott wins the vice president position. Congratulations, Scott.
Thank you.
Next, we will open up nominations for the board treasurer.
I nominate Jordan Parks.
Jordan, do you accept?
Sure.
I would like to nominate Amy Dawkins, treasurer.
Do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? We'll close the nominations. And we've got 2 folks, Jordan and Amy, for the position of board treasurer. We will just raise for the first nomination as Jordan. All those in favor, raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, 5. All those for Amy, raise your hand. 2. Jordan, you win the board treasurer position. Congratulations. Next on the agenda is we'll open up the nominations for board clerk. All right, Jody, we've got a nomination for board clerk. Are there any other nominations?
I'll nominate Nicole Miller.
Cool. Nicole, do you accept that nomination?
Yep.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Close the nominations. We'll move to voting for board clerk. We've got 2, Jody and Nicole. All those in favor for Jody, please raise your hand. 2. All those in favor for Nicole, please raise your hands. I'm assuming, okay, 5. Nicole, you win the board clerk position. Congratulations. That concludes our board reorganization. I don't think so. I think we'll just keep going.
Musical chairs happen.
At least the gavel.
All right, we'll move. Next to the item is the consent agenda. Are there anything on the consent agenda that folks would want to review separately?
I have a couple that I want to point out.
Yeah.
There's quite a few things down there, so if you do have questions, please let me know. I did want to bring forward the floor scrubbing machine because, and obviously board docs being down and we had to postpone the meeting, but for your review that weekend, Tim was still getting quotes and still going through, but I wanted to bring to your attention, if you haven't seen it, the reason that we're in this situation. This is our old floor scrubber, and it has put together by a 2x4 and some others. This is not a cheap piece of machinery, but I think this picture alone will tell you kind of what position. And the reason I bring that up is we're trying to weigh out, because we have a variety of things in this category, and we're trying to pick and choose what type of resources we have, and because we have quite a few things that fall in or look like this. So in terms of the recommendation, Tim brought forward the details of that. We actually brought them on site, which is why his recommendation wasn't ready by last Monday. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. 2 down, the human growth and development. This is something that Jamie has been working diligently on. As you guys may have heard, at least previous board members, unfortunately, we have not been following state statute, and we're supposed to have a meeting, committee meeting every year to talk about this. So this is the policy, and then the next item is the agenda. This meeting is taking place this Wednesday. I will say that I made a mistake. It was pointed out by a community member that in statute, 1/4 cannot be staff members, only staff members. And so we actually have 2 students. Bob Swanepoel is, just because we've had a lot of turnover with clergy, he's on the church council. So we invited him. And again, these were all invited over the winter months. So I am short, which we will rectify after this meeting, but this is a topic that, again, creates some angst. And so if you look at the agenda, if you have any questions, just let me know. But this is a meeting that will take place on Wednesday, and then I'll bring the notes back to the board, which then satisfies the state statute. We have not done a good job around here offering health the way that it should. The best way I can describe it is the last person to really teach health was Kay Loggy. And then after that, it kind of fell off. And between Holly and Shane Strong and a lot of conversations with Jamie, Mr. Nargis was teaching puberty ed today, so he's giving his 2 cents into that process. He took over for me, which I might assume next year, but again, just wanted to bring that process to your attention. The next one is the early.
About that.
Yep.
I thought I was reading on the new stuff that you had sent out about the stuff that had been passed, that you have to incorporate the discussion of adoption.
Yes.
And stuff. Is that, I didn't see that in the.
No, so really what the process is going to be is just get a baseline, just to, again, understand. They actually, even like last year, we talked about different curriculums and so on. And because it wasn't being taught, because the committee wasn't meeting, we just, again, like a lot of things, wanted to create a baseline of what we're doing and bringing this group together. In terms of curriculum, we actually moved forward before, and that was because we didn't have policy and we needed something, and we knew, I think most would agree, I think the biggest piece to this is there's always an opt-out option. And Ms. Schaefer has put together an opt-out process. So if parents or families didn't want to take part, they could opt out. So that is always a choice. In terms of the curriculum itself, we needed to have something. So we're going to stick with that and then have this conversation from there.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of, yeah, some of those other big hitter items is right here: abstinence, pregnancy, legal requirements, health topics, things like that. So we're going to discuss those and kind of figure out where are we. If you think back, and I know this is new for Nicole and Amy, even at our high school level, and Jamie spent her first year last year doing it, who's doing what? Or does it even exist? And Sue, from a curriculum standpoint, that's been most of her year. Who does what curriculum? And get it written down. What are we following? Because we just had complete isolation. It seemed like there were some teachers working in departments, but there was more so isolation. So this is along the same conversation. The other one is the early literacy coaching program. This was a program based on legislative grant development. And thanks to Jamie, we put together a proposal. She did the bulk of the work in terms of the application. And we were just granted this last week. We are offered a part-time educator. And so this is, again, I don't think there's a lot of understanding at the legislative level of what this is, because the license, these people really don't exist. And for them to leave a position for 2 years, probably is not going to happen. So there's a lot of details that we have to work out. The schools around us that also were able to achieve, whether it's a halftime, most of them are halftime, Durand, Rice Lake. So I'm going to be having conversations with Randy and Ryan. I think if we include CISA, you're going to start chipping away at what is given. It's $120,000 stipend for the full-time position. But when Jamie and I talked about it, it was, we'll take whatever help we can. And Jamie has some acquaintances that have the official licenses, and maybe we brought them in just a little bit this year, Melissa. And again, exploring a lot of opportunities. So it's a good thing. It's just a matter of figuring out the details and going from there. So, you want to add? Okay. And then the final one there is, we knew that when we did the $65,000 recode of all parking lot, that we knew it was a mandate. And so right now we have scheduled 13 heat patch for the lower elementary because of the winter. Again, we know at some point we're gonna have to spend the $300,000, $400,000 to completely, because it wasn't taken care of properly. So we have those scheduled, and it should be happening here in the next week or so with the same company that did the initial one. So just wanted to, it was under the threshold, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware of the buildings and grounds piece to that. Other than that, is there any questions on any of the other consent agenda items?
I think the only question I had was on the speech and language pathology contracts. I know that was one of the items we reviewed today, but I mean, do we have any idea of kind of the forecasting for that, of like how much of that resource we need? And then I know we talked about how there's got to be an aide, right, that's there with it. So we have to kind of pay for a resource to sit with the kid and then pay for that service. So just curious on.
I'll let, before
Yeah.
Aaron takes over and answers, I will say that Aaron's done a lot of homework, and actually we are saving some decent funds because of what she has worked through with the company. You want to just outline that briefly?
So actually for next year, with what we will be covering, the paraeducator that sits with us will not be needed. So we are going to be able to reallocate her for other needs in the building, which will be opening up and will be a great help throughout both elementary, middle school, wherever needed, and in the health office and everything. But this one will be through the professional speech therapist, will be our SLP and an SLPA. So that will be hands-on and in person more for the SLP. And then the other one that's the 2 days a week full-time will be in person. So nice and hands-on too. And that will be replacing the 16603 from Boyceville. to cover. So it's all kind of evening out and lessening.
Yeah, and I think we can all agree it's, and they were pretty successful even by the data that showed the progress made, which is required by the IEP, but in person I think is always better. These people don't exist. There's not a lot of them, similar to the 360s, same type of thing. There's just not enough people to fill these positions. So I think it was a win-win for Aaron to find this company. It did a Band-Aid for us last year, and then it turned into a better,
Great partnership.
for this year. So any other questions on any of the items?
For item G, I thought we had approved those during our special meeting at the end of March for Matt Shepherd and.
We did. I thought that was
Okay.
For which one?
the
G,
track coaches.
Yeah, item G.
I think we already approved them once.
Did we do double it?
We just really like them.
Yeah, I just want to reaffirm the affirmation.
So I think, I don't know if we had the contracts ready. There was something that was different, but yes, now it's official, because I know, I think you just tried to squeak it in because track was starting. So we wanted to get it official, so I don't think we actually had a contract. Either or, it's okay. No, we can outlook.
Anything else?
My track kids are really liking William. He's been very helpful for the runners. I've heard. That's good.
If not, we would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion. What are you gonna call?
Jody, yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion by Jody, second by Jordan. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Motion carries.
Derek, can I jump in real quick? I
Yep.
just have something to hand out for signatures. So this form has to be president, treasurer, and clerk. And you need signed all three within this box.
Okay.
Does that make
Not a
sense?
pressure. Yep.
Yep, so don't go up to the O line. And then I have diplomas that will have to go through to everyone. Obviously, don't need it tonight, but we can start.
So the one that Derek's doing is for the bank, for us to issue checks after the reorganization. And,
This one, you have the second one.
yeah, they do not even come close to
Are you
the
there?
line.
Yeah.
There.
Right. The second is the diplomas. It's probably best that you set up a time to come back to the school and just take time to sign it. These are official.
Joyce doesn't, then that is, yeah, treasurer and then clerk. And then you gotta do this one too. This one, I will make your signature electronic, and that's what will go into contracts.
Okay.
Okay, so. This one here, yep, so right under his, but you gotta leave enough room for Nicole, so they can send that.
Yeah, I would suggest.
I'm small already.
That's what I'll make it. This one is the one you see for signature. Okay.
They're back just over here.
Good.
It's roller kind of. It's goofy at this.
The sun.
Oh, I don't like to know.
Your stuff.
Sorry.
I'm used to sitting at the town hall desk, and I have like, I know, I have like a whole table.
Okay, and then this one, just don't, so go right under his, but just don't hit the yellow line. No, okay. You have one more here signing, if you could fill this out, and I'll give it to Deb tomorrow, that's just to get you onto the Hiawatha National Bank information.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then just reach out for diplomas. Sorry.
Okay.
Everyone's signing for diplomas.
Okay. So everybody just has to make sure it's you so they can come in and sign them.
Okay. And the window is anytime now? Starting.
Yeah.
Okay, they're ready.
Mondays and Tuesdays I can stay later in the evenings if that works better.
I'm here also, so we'll get it done. If you need, just text me and we'll figure out the time.
It's intense pressure. You haven't been through it. Signing every one of those.
They stick together too.
Luckily, there's not a yellow box to keep it in.
Yes.
All right, so the next action, we've got the administrative reports. Mrs. Spade, you.
All right, on April 16th was Wisconsin's annual tornado severe weather drill. It was actually canceled for the year, but we made the executive decision to still hold it, but also to run our monthly fire drill right at the same time, just to get it. We've been having a lot of testing recently, if no one's noticed. So we just had it in the same window and ran them together. It was very nice. Everybody agreed that it just helped. And we actually didn't have the alarm go off, so it was nice. It was all done within about 7 minutes, I think. So everybody, all the teachers were appreciative, the little kids were appreciative because the alarm didn't go off. So it was nice just to get it all done.
But they all still went like this.
Yeah, they were
They were still like this, you can take your hands down, like, no.
So it was nice, it met compliance and we maximized instructional time, so it was great. My next item was our special education PLD. Really looking at the end of the year reflection and planning for long-term, kind of going through, looking ahead, because as you well know, we have a ton of meetings throughout the year, but it always seems that this time of year, we're just as busy throughout, so we still have evaluations, end of year IEPs on the timelines. So making sure that we're keeping up with that while preparing for next year, because we want those snapshots, those IEPs at a glance updated to share for 5th grade going into 6th grade and 8th grade going to freshman, anybody that's transitioning. So all of that paperwork is ready for a smooth transition, but also looking ahead at assessment docs. So anything that may have information regarding next year's assessment information. So if they need a separate setting, anything like that. So if their IEP isn't going until after this time next year, all that assessment time will be already done unless they need an updated something before then. So that way you're not stressing about it in the middle of next year. It can already be updated and shared on that document. And just making sure that we use our time wisely for all of this information. And during that day, we also had a mandatory paraeducator day where we met as administrators with all the paraeducators to kind of update some information that will be changing next year. And a lot of that is just communication with me, maybe some paperwork items that will be going through myself instead of Darla, and just changing from coordinator to director, and also evaluations, paperwork processes, things like that, and expectations. So that way it can be consistent across all building levels, because how often do we have the same schedule where we can meet and go over everything? So having all of us at the same time and all the paraeducators at the same time in the same room. So that was a great thing. On that day also, we took a look at the Paraeducator Summer Summit, where we always invite them, but we also wanted to be very much on board, like this is an expectation. We do not often get to give them great opportunities where they all can go together for a full day of training. This is an awesome opportunity. They get it every year at the beginning of August. It's a one-day training. There's 2 dates that one they can pick from. I asked them to have it all in. The other, I think it's the very week before that, is the Title I training for paraeducators. They only have to do that at one time when they become a paraeducator, but this is every year they update it each year, and this one is going to be a great one because it's from emotions to regulation, which in schools and across the board, that regulation is very important. And they have early elementary, a late elementary, and then a middle school, high school. And it's 2 sessions for each one that breaks out, and then a morning and a middle of the day where they can meet with the whole group, discussing this. It's a great opportunity. Summit 58. I was going to add another picture, but with board docs being down, I actually did not get to it last week and I forgot today. So I had, this is Ms. Hoyt's class as part of that. They do bake homemade goodies every week, sometimes twice a week to sell at Summit 58 Cafe. But it really truly has been great, not only the baking of the treats from Ms. Hoyt's class and their experience for this opportunity, where our older students in that class get to earn a little money by making, packaging, cleaning, doing all this stuff for that opportunity, learning those post-secondary skills, but also all of our workers at Summit 58 doing inventory, cleaning, serving customers, making the coffee, doing all of that, those fun items. I wish I would have had the picture up there. It has Brody's sign, Summit 58 sign in the back, but also some of our workers in their aprons and plastic gloves and everything. So they're really enjoying it and earning money while they do it. So it's a great opportunity. And then Ms. Hoyt, she's like, well, since you're taking pictures, here's some more fun with science. I was actually in there right after this activity, and there was a couple of students that did not want to give up the marbles. They were really having fun with this, and I think science may be one of the favorites for quite a few students in here with all the hands-on activities that they do. I want to say that even now, this is about 2 weeks after, I could probably go and ask at least 3 students in there to do the potential stored energy and maybe not kinetic energy with that certain word, but the motion, and I would get all the correct answers. So they were really having a fun time with this. So that classroom is one of my favorites each and every day when I get to go in and visit, and we're having a great time. So the smiles are contagious. All right. Any questions about any of the items? You can come and help out with a fire drill at any time. Anybody?
I heard about tornadoes for.
Tornadoes? They're fun.
I had to explain, our house is not gonna fly away.
Oh, it's great when they ask you to make a plan though with
It was pretty
them.
fun, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Spade, for the update. Ms. Schaefer, elementary.
Yep, so just like the middle school, high school, 10th graders, we finished forward testing. One of the things I tried to focus on this year with the elementary is just getting the kids to try and know that it does matter. It's not an end-all be-all, that there's lots of different ways that we measure things. But as I was kind of sitting back and watching things last year, I could tell that there wasn't a lot of seriousness put into it from the students. So that was kind of my focus this year, is just having those conversations. It matters. I want you to try, do your best, do it for yourself. So we started about a month before. I mean, clearly we've been covering the standards all year and doing test prep throughout the year, but we really started hitting it heavy the month before, having the conversations. Again, not freaking the kids out, because again, it is just one data point for those kiddos, but just getting them to know that it matters. So I went around all the classrooms, had meetings with all the kids before, not meetings, kind of little pep talks and that kind of stuff. And then I said, if we put forth an effort, try our best, we'll do root beer floats on the last day. So we all celebrated on the last day of testing with root beer floats. They even convinced me to bring in some other flavor soda, so I also did that too. But I will say root beer was kind of their favorite. So curious to see how our kiddos did with that this year. We had our K2 spring program. If you remember, we're kind of on an alternate schedule. 3-5 was at Christmas. So K2 had the spring concert along with the 5th grade band. Did an awesome job with that. Lots of turnout. Again, this is our first time this year having concerts during the day. It's getting easier and easier as far as management goes. We're learning, okay, when's the good time to open the doors, to let everybody in? Because again, we're having a huge influx of about 300 to 400 people through the building, but it's gone very well with those changes with the programming times. Kind of touched base earlier, but as you know, we're doing our human growth and development. We are just doing it at the 5th grade level this year. Hopefully next year we'll be ready to bring in the 4th graders along with that. So again, just starting with the 5th graders, because we're a little bit lagged with previously of not touching human growth and development or puberty education. Our current 5th graders, we actually have them on 4th grade curriculum because we're a little bit lagged with it. So very surface level stuff. Like Patrick said, all that information was communicated out to parents. We had a document as far as all the content that was going to be covered, what was going to be addressed, that kind of thing. Opt-out options. I had one parent contact me, ask me some questions. I said, you're more than welcome to come in, review anything. And she's actually, nope, we're good. So all the kids did participate in that. It's still, like I said, a couple more weeks left of that. Earth Day activities. Holly Olson does a great job organizing all of the Earth Day activities. Each grade level has a different spot on the campus that they focus on and clean up. We lucked out, we had a beautiful day that day. So the kids always enjoy picking up trash, and then they always do sidewalk chalk also for that. So just kind of a fun traditional thing that we're doing. Also, we're in the middle of, Holly Olson is in the middle of field day planning. So we put out, we're looking for lots of volunteers. So if anybody would like an awesome organized day to be part of down at the elementary school, the volunteer form is out there. So go ahead and sign up for that. But again, another great organized event that the kids are all looking forward to. Obviously also too, end of the school year brings lots of field trips. So we're really trying to focus on make sure at least every grade level has one big field trip throughout the year. PTC, I approached them at the beginning of this year and asked them to kind of help offset the cost of field trips because the cost gets really expensive to ask parents as far as some of the admission and that kind of stuff. We also help on the backside administratively for kids who can't afford it, but just try to get the overall cost down. So PTC was able to fund a certain amount of dollars to each trip to pull that pricing down for parents. Yeah, I think that's about it. Anybody else have any questions?
When will we know the results of the forward testing?
We are supposed to know by May 30th because of Act 20. They have to have those results as far as PRPs and all of that with that. So they did make that deadline last year. They used to come mid-June or mid-July in previous years, but they were able to turn around last year to May 30th. But we were also supposed to find out more early literacy coach a couple months ago. So we'll see.
Are those going into that new dashboard, like all the test results? Because didn't we review that like a few
It'll go
months
into
ago?
RISE, yeah. It'll be a little bit before it's public because it's all under embargo yet once those results do come out. So it'll be a little bit before it's on the public side, but yes, it will be in there.
Great, you guys ready for high school?
Yep.
Middle school, good. April 8th was our community service day, well received by the community. Kids worked hard picking up garbage, raking yards, picking up and cleaning up branches and debris. Mr. Olson took a group out, we had a couple other groups out, Ms. Nolte. The community seemed to be very appreciative for our kids, and our kids did a great job. We took some pictures and kids worked really hard, so. The next thing too is Krista, thank you for all the posts that you put out on Facebook. It's nice. I don't see too many districts that do as much promotion as we do here, which is great to see what our kids are doing out in the community and how they do in school, all the different cool projects that are being done. April 8th, our juniors attended the career fair. Did you go to that, Mr. Mays? You want to talk a little bit about that, or I'm gonna let you? I know I put you on the spot, but I'm not sure.
Yep, the juniors go and get to pick, very similar to the Northwood one they went on earlier in the year, of different career clusters that CVTC offers. They get 3 options throughout the day, and they actually bus them to their 6 locations throughout the CVTC or the Chippewa Valley area, and then they bus back and kind of do a summary at the end of the time. So based on kind of their interests and things like that. So
thank you for doing that, taking those kids over. Senior trip, I was fortunate enough to go up because I don't live too far from Minot, to the Pine County Country Lodge, April 17th and 19th. It was cool. Our kids, just to be able to hang out in that facility was unbelievable. I know the weather wasn't the greatest, but just to see the kids together and the work that the advisors did and chaperones did, that just a really neat venue and really a good experience for our kids. April 22nd, sophomores attended Menominee Chamber of Commerce Youth Career Expo, where Menominee area businesses had booths. Students were able to tour UW South that day as well. So our kids are getting out and kind of experience some different things, which is really neat to see what's out there and what's types of occupations and professions are available out there to them. Class of 2026 recognition ceremony, future plans, signing day was 23rd. That was amazing. I appreciate Mr. Olson kind of putting this together. It was just a great for all. We had the prom court get announced, valedictorian, salutatorian got announced, because a lot of the kids don't go to graduation. They don't even know who these kids are, or who were valedictorian, salutatorian. And we had 4 athletes commit to college athletics. And then I kind of put a little stinger on Mr. Lamb. He never got his band, so we had a little fun with that. But again, Mr. Olson, thank you for organizing that. That was really well received. Prom was a huge success. I was fortunate enough, Dr. Curtis and myself, to go over to help chaperone. Misty Holman and Jenna Hoffman and we had the chaperones there, bus drivers, for making that a very special night. The venue was awesome. They had food there for our kids. It was a really cool venue and a cool night for our kids. A lot of dancing. DECA plans to hold a student club fair during homeroom on May 4th. Each club will have a chance, but some kids there will share information, try to promote and try to get more kids involved in extracurricular, which will be, I think, a great thing for getting kids involved. Miss Gillis and her classes and the FFA members are getting things ready for drive your tractor to school day, so you might not want to be on the roads that morning. And Farm in the Glen, which will take place on the 8th here, coming up this Friday. Dr. Curtis doing a lot of work here with curricular stuff, materials, and samples are being received by vendors. ELA 612 is our highest priority for next year. Science is being reviewed to prepare for next year's science teacher, the new one that we hired. Middle school math is reviewing materials. Science and math will be a partial implementation. Most likely will help spread out the cost over a 2-year period. There's going to be more information to come, but there's a change going on and a good change with our curriculum and moving forward. Today, it's not up there, but I added this. Mr. Fiesel, was in district today to meet the students and staff. He took a day off from work up in Spooner. The new Glenwood City principal addressed the middle school, high school student body and staff this morning in the gym. Didn't talk a lot, but he really stressed how important building positive relationships were to him. He stressed accountability, effort, and attitude as important character traits he values as an educational leader. He's going to be a good one. I've known him for a long time, so we got a good one there. State testing took place over the last month or so. Our students did a really nice job with those state assessments. Our testing guru, Mr. Popko, he analyzed the test scores. They are back. We ended up with a 19.8 composite, 18.3 in English, and 18 is college prepared. We had a 20.1 in reading, 20.9 in math, 20.4 in science. Did exceptionally well in writing. It ties the school record. It should put us in the top, according to him, in the top 1% to 3% of writers. And we expect to be in the top 30% overall statewide. So it's pretty impressive for a school our size. So our kids did a really nice job. So that's what we got, high school, middle school.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Nargis. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, and the last section here is, we're just gonna start, I'm gonna keep this on a rolling agenda, but I think you guys already mentioned it, and Mr. Nargis did. We're pretty fortunate. We do have a marketing guru sitting in the back corner there. She creates quite a few different graphics when it comes, and when I was putting this agenda together, I was a little bit overwhelmed. When you look at Facebook and just the different things. Very fortunate with Krista and the content she creates. It puts a picture with the information. And I think that's how a lot of people are so visual. And so kudos to Krista. And again, if you go through, but I'm going to have this here and just kind of go through, because whether you have Facebook or not, it's oftentimes shared and gives an idea behind what Ms. Faith and Ms. Schaefer and Mr. Nargis are talking about, the experiences that these kids are getting in picture form really bring it to life. So I'm not going to go through every picture, just if you get a chance, go through those and see how it's the reason that my wife and I moved back here in terms of we want our kids to be well-rounded. I mean, that was the main focus for us as a family, and I think we're doing that for our students here. So take a look at that. It is overwhelming in just 1 month that you see these many opportunities. So continue to monitor that. Other than that, any questions on administrative reports in general? All right.
Seeing none, we will jump down to the business action items. Item A, Tim Johnson, dispositional letter.
So with the first one, no approval needed. Just wanted it to, again, since I started, there's probably more things on the agenda than I normally would have in my previous positions. But for this one, with this dispositional letter, judgment of conviction and so forth. So everything is right there. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Testified twice that day. And from a standpoint of statements and so forth, you guys have seen most likely everything. So are there any questions on that?
I think you did a great job in your testimony. You were very straight and forward and to the point, and I mean, you did a great job representing the school district and everything, so thank you.
Welcome. Yeah, it's been a journey. Hopefully this is some of the fewer times that you actually see that name at the top and we can just move on. But I think it is important to understand that we have to make sure we're aware of everything. I will say this at another time, especially with our new board members. I would encourage you to have conversations with, especially the outside people. And I consider myself an outside person, but when you bring in people like Deb, Dr. Curtis, Mr. Nargis, Ms. Schaefer, who aren't necessarily from around here. I mean, I don't feel like I'm from around here. And get their perspective coming from different school districts and the work that has been done. It's overwhelming. It truly is. And the acknowledgement and the understanding that we're starting almost from ground zero. It's been a journey and one that it's taking time, taking a lot of effort, but we're surrounded by really good people. So I think it's important to understand, how did we get to this point? So with that said, letter B is the final restitution agreed upon. I will preface and say that that is not even close to the total amount, but we will respect the judge's opinion, or decision. And the last final piece of acceptance is the $21,000 for the forensic audit. Any questions on that one? I will ask for approval on that one, just to financially.
Any questions? I will just need a motion to.
I'll make a motion to approve the $21,000.
Motion by Nicole.
I'll second.
Do we have a second? Okay, thank you, Jordan. Seconds. Any discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. And the approval and acceptance is approved. Letter C.
So the comment has been made to me, I bet you're glad that trial is over. Yeah, the trial, that's great, but the work continues, and this is one of them. So a little back history, as you know, the overpayment made to Ron Johnson of $17,500. We went back through our investigative process, and one of the, in talking with FBI, the DOJ, IRS, they came back and there was an overpayment, thus the district overpaid and should be eligible for a refund. So with $17,500, the district received a $2,000 refund based on WRS overpayment. Because Ron Johnson was not formally charged, there was discussion at the DA level. They felt confident moving forward with that. With Tim Johnson, they wanted to wait till the trial was done. So the last couple weeks, up till last Monday, Deb and I had a lot of meetings with WRS agents, and basically to help you understand, what this is. I outlined everything in this recommendation, but just to help you understand, the overpayment by the district was $376,587.30, which is quite a large amount for a pretty comfy retirement through the public system. With that, the district has already remitted $25,000 because we have the ability to do that on our side. And so that's why I'm asking for approval, is that you acknowledge that we need to do that on our side because we have direct access to that, and then they'll take care of it on the state end. So through our investigative discussions with the IRS and ETF, those amounts came to the forefront, and I guess if there's any questions, again, I could go into greater detail, but I want to make sure I hit the highlights.
It's pretty impressive what Deb Newman was able to do to get to those numbers, and I think that was reflected in the response from the Wisconsin case manager, kind of sharing her appreciation for Deb's work there. So,
yeah.
Any questions? Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion to approve the adjustment.
I guess I'll make a motion.
Jordan, motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Nicole. Any discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. The approval of WRS adjustment is approved. Item D.
So I just wanted to do a brief overview of the current budget and then next year's budget. Basically, if you look at this list, it'll give a summary. Couple things to keep in mind at the state level. He was actually my mentor to Craig Boren. He was at Prairie Farm, went to Barron, and then was at Wisconsin Rapids, now is at St. Croix Falls. One of his comments, and I've worked with him throughout my career, we've talked quite a bit, but WSB is actually doing a much better job to educate the public when it comes to the overall financial formula that schools have to abide by. I think it's prevalent, especially as we go into referendum discussions, 88% of schools have to rely on operating or bond referendums just to get by. So I would encourage you, the video is under 4 minutes. It does a really good job when it comes to funding. If you're more interested, I would read this article. This one is actually one of the better ones that I have seen WASB come through. There's also some maps in here that will show you when it comes to aid deductions and so on. It's a pretty hot topic because of the stat that I just shared with you, 88%. When you think of that many schools have to go to referendums to go above the revenue cap, that tells you that there's a problem. And so we've been fighting that for many, many years. There also is some legislative discussions on the very large surplus that is taking place right now. And that goes back to a couple different things in terms of special ed pricing per child. The refund percentage is supposed to be 42 and 45 based on the biennial budget, and they came up short. So again, they're supposedly closer. I should know more this week after some of my state meetings. Hopefully that comes in, and if it does, and again, just a reminder to the new board members, we not only have Fund 27, and I don't know the actual budget amount, but I do know that we have to transfer 900,000 from Fund 10 just to cover 27. And that is due to the increased expenses for a variety of things, including one that we just talked about, like an SLP. Those people don't exist. And so if you do find one, you're going to pay a premium. And so it's only going to get worse because the individuals going into education continues to dwindle. So with that said, there's a lot of state discussions that are still taking place. Typically at this time, that's not necessarily the topic. So we're, again, hopeful that some of those items will go in our favor. In terms of the current budget and different things with Laura on board, we are actually going to sit and we're going to continue to go line by line. A couple things that I want to bring to your attention. We did have a fall enrollment mistake in terms of aid, property, and spending. So there is going to be a budget readjustment that will be brought to you next month for $139,000, and that was based on enrollment when we do projection sheets with the state. We also have, and this is the part where I've been talking about with our strategic correction, but whether we go into fund balance, last year we were able to come under budget until we hit the mark of we had to pay $160,000. And again, I would applaud the board for doing that. They paid $160,000 of back pay to make things right. This year, if it falls into that category, there's been a lot of work, especially with Jamie and Dr. Curtis when it comes to curriculum. We are behind, and we haven't made a commitment in terms of that curriculum, and we didn't have a process in place. And we constantly talk about process and procedures, and really relying on Jamie's experience, 15 years as a curriculum director, and understanding how scaffolding happens in terms of what Jamie does in the elementary, and then how that flows into the middle school and how that flows into the high school. That's best practice, and most educators will tell you that. So there are curriculum, and it's not cheap. If you look at the cameras for the last couple of days, there's 2 huge pallets that were in the in the commons area. But the math, it's going to be a great investment. And again, kudos to Jamie for recognizing those things, but more so creating a process to do it. It's not just, well, I think it's this. She incorporated her staff, and Sue's doing the same thing. And then on top of that, Sue and Jamie are having those conversations, which hasn't happened here when you talk to staff. So there's a lot of things in terms of that are going to be cost prohibitive, but they're good things that need to happen. We have to get ourselves to a baseline, especially when it comes to curriculum. A couple other surprises from this last year, not as many as in my first 2 years, but we'll see how the budget kind of works out. In just a couple spots, I'm going to talk about the CISA 5 model, and you're going to see some of those numbers. But again, from a technology standpoint, we find ourselves replacing things that can only be found on eBay. And I think that gives you enough information that these companies just can't support it anymore because the software is outdated. eCampus, the first year, and again, kudos to Mr. Mays over there. I think for us to offer the post-secondary options that we do with Ms. Wright and with Mr. Mays organizing those things, our kids are in a better situation. You talk to any graduate that's at college now, they'll talk about their roommates or their friends that come from other districts, and they're coming with 10, 15 credits already to their name. We weren't necessarily in that conversation. So again, it's a financial commitment on the district part, but one that I think is well worth it. Fund 50, this has been an interesting, I would say, just trying to get to another baseline with our food service and making sure that we're investing in the right areas. One of the things actually just took place today, and I'll talk more later, but to not have our students eat lunch at 1:15 in the afternoon, we have to make some changes. And so it's just a better nutritional program and plan. So we're having to go through the Commons kitchen, which is very, some things are outdated, others of them are newer. It's just a hodgepodge. Today, our 30-year-old dishwashing system is on its last leg. We kind of knew that, but we're able to, I think, do some Band-Aids to make that work for next year. And next year, I believe, Mr. Nargis, it's senior high is going to eat at
We're gonna eat over 12:30. Yep.
Yeah, middle school starting 11:40, 11:45. We'll serve elementary at the same time. My 3 through 5. So it gets them.
Oh, wonderful.
So the kitchen's gonna be the main, the kitchen's gonna be the main producer, and then the Commons is gonna be another serving area, and then you won't have these kids, having crappy snacks in their locker. Well, they still might, but it was just so imbalanced. So we're working on a plan for that. Some more technology, again, staff laptops, etc. So again, not as many big surprising items as last year or my first year, but still some items that we need to address to get ourselves to that baseline. Other things in the docket for next year, obviously the buildings and grounds that we've had many discussions about, compensation, staff benefits, including renewal dates. One of the things that we always had in my previous district is renewal dates are usually with the fiscal year. Our renewal date here is in September, which you don't get proper numbers until June. So you can't necessarily plan as much as you would like. So we're working through that process. Unfortunately, Jamie has quite a few outdated projection boards in the elementary that are not working. And similar to like here, I think we learn best when there is that graphic in front of us. And so those are another, I would say, item that raises to more the top of the list from a technology standpoint, make sure that they work, but also understanding with the new curriculums, and it doesn't matter what curriculum you have in front, those things are such a useful tool. The same thing with our phone system. Unfortunately, Marco is not able to support our system. These are systems that should have been replaced prior, or at least planned for. You shouldn't have to plan for a phone, your switches, your PA system. We just did a disservice because all this is coming to a head at one point. So those are some of the major items. And then I'm looking at the comparison and analytics in terms of what our mechanic does at his time frame with the recent transportation coordinator. And again, when I got here, I vowed to not take away positions in terms of pay. I had to move some pieces based on staffing. I am thankful for Chrissy to step into that role. Mechanic was just a Band-Aid when Ryan McVeigh left. And so I think we're finding ourselves in a path to where a full-time mechanic doesn't make any sense. A full-time transportation coordinator doesn't make any sense. But if you could find that right person to do both, that would be a full-time position. And the budget supports it in terms of how much time and effort they would need in each one of those positions, including maybe the third aspect would be additional help for Tim on the outside during the fall and spring. So more information will come to you at, as you know, we had to move up next board meeting to the 18th, so I'll see you in a couple weeks. Other than that, any questions on the budget? I will continue to go through those things and attach articles as purpose.
Questions for Mr. Olson? Otherwise, I would be interested to see the new Excel file when we get some of these updates in there, and I'm sure you'll share it when we have it, but.
Yeah, actually, the file, once we get to the CISA one, I'll talk through that, so.
Okay, otherwise, we'll move on to item E. Item E.
All right, so I'm gonna do a backwards design on this one. The question I'm gonna ask you to basically come to a consensus with, and you get the choice. I think it's pretty obvious what Dr. Curtis and Mr. Nargis have done for our middle school, high school. It's hard to describe, and if you're wondering, just go talk to staff. Don't take my word for it. Just go and talk to staff, talk to our admin team. I know he's sitting in the room, but you can just ignore him in that corner there. But he has made a significant impact for a variety of things in terms of student relationships, the respect level. Yes, we have a great group of seniors, but they don't just get that way. And I think he's come in, and I will say this, and I'll be, again, very blunt. I've been a student for 13 years, and I've evaluated a lot of principals over my time, and very much in agreement in terms of what Dr. Curtis and Mr. Nargis have brought to our high school haven't necessarily been experienced here in the past. And again, don't go off of my opinion, just go ask our staff. Go ask the ones that have been here 25 years and what they've gone through. What I'm asking you is that we bring Mr. Nargis back in a pseudo mentoring role. And what I mean by that is I'm looking for a dollar amount from you. And then I work out the details with Mr. Nargis. But my hope and recommendation is to bring him back in twofold. Number one, to mentor Josh. And I know Josh has some admin experience, but I want to build off of what the baseline was established this year. In addition to that, I need Mrs. Schaefer to not spend all of her time with behaviors. I need her to use her gift, which is curriculum. She's done a tremendous job in all those other areas, but in the same regard, we have a lot of work to do when it comes to curriculum. For those new board members, when I first took over and I met with the board and staff, which was 75%, number one was student behavior. Number two was staff accountability. Those were the top two things. And then the third thing that was raised in those surveys and the conversation was follow through. Just do what you say you're going to do. And so we're at the staff accountability. I think the student behavior piece, Mr. Nargis really added to that and helped create. If you're ever here on those days, you never see him sitting in an office. He's always out. And it's made such a difference. I mean, for me, especially where my office is. So we need some of that help too, because Ms. Schaefer is only one person. And in the elementary, same thing. She walked into quite the situation where behaviors were out of control, and it was actually impeding the way education was presented. So I'm asking the board to give me a dollar amount of what we think we would be comfortable with. For example, I will say, to take 40,000, which is a new teacher, is too much. We do not want to invest that. It's hard to go to the public and say we need another administrator. And again, I don't want to get top heavy. But in the same regard, I think there's things that we could build upon in terms of successes this year. So I'm asking the board for an amount that you feel comfortable based on bringing him back in a 1 day, 2 day a week type of situation. The salary amount would be very different than what he's paid this year, almost half. But we would spread it out based on Mr. Nargis is a retired individual. But I think he, number one, likes it here. Number two, he has very much added to our just culture. And that's prevalent for both staff and students. So with that said, I'll open up to any questions.
Well, I do have a few questions.
Sure.
I do agree with your thought of the administration. My concern is the administration being top heavy, not that this is a big amount of time, okay? But if we're looking to ask for a referendum for operating and we're saying, well, we're gonna hire another person to help with the transition and this and that, that's something that is a concern because if we don't have any money, where's it coming from? Number one. And just a thought, not that, and it's nothing against Mr. Nargis because I've heard wonderful things and great things and the kids love him and I do see him in the hallways and I do appreciate that and the structure. But the dollar amount, like you say, is there something that you can do? Maybe like some kind of a contract that isn't like see it for like 6 months or 4.5 months and see how it goes and see if it helps. Is it undermining the new principal coming in because the kids are like, well, we're gonna talk to him, Mr. Nargis instead of the new principal? I mean, these are just concerns that I have with having another position hired when they're saying, well, don't you think maybe you should get your phones fixed before you hire another administrator? Those are the concerns that I have.
I think those are
Yeah.
great questions. And I think, I'll try to talk about a couple of them. Number one, the conversation has been with Mr. Fiesel already, about his thoughts and feelings on that. And absolutely would support it in whatever way it would be. And again, if that's 1 day a week, it's 1 day a week. I just think the experiences that I've had, not only with our admin team, but also seeing some of the changes around here, I want to build off of that. Can it be done without Mr. Nargis? You always do what you have to do to be successful in education. What I'm looking at is how can we make sure that foundation continues to grow? And that's why I'm bringing it to you. I'm not even going to put a dollar amount. Like, what are you guys interested in? Is it 5,000? Is it 10,000? And then you work out the details because we have not talked about a per day or a per diem in terms of what that cost would be. Amy, I share in where if we're going to referendum, and again, another administrator, I don't look at it as that way because Dr. Curtis, she's going to be back in our mentoring role. And where did I find the money for that position? To create a mentor program that I think has been a huge success because of Dr. Curtis. We got rid of this extra bonus pay that Johnson used to put to other teachers for doing a good job. I'm sorry, we have 120 employees that work their butts off. Do you have some bad apples? You always do. And so we took that 15 grand and repurposed it into a purposeful program. So again, I share the same where there's no way that I would bring a recommendation to you in terms of, you look at staffing in the elementary, could we use another elementary teacher? So that's why I'm putting kind of an open-end question to you as the board is what are you comfortable with, if any? Planning purposes, Mr. Nargis is kind of a hot commodity in terms of filling in for certain administrators, whether similar to what he did this year. So I wanted to have a conversation with the board to say, what are we comfortable with, if any?
What's the difference gonna be from the new principal to what we currently pay Sue Energy? Do you know what that is?
It's roughly about, when we came to contract negotiations, it's the same amount from this current year. So with those two, and what would it cost? And again, I would say, I mean, these 3 years, it'll be year 3 coming up in July. This year compared to last year is night and day. And again, I think Ms. Birch did some quality things for our district, but the amount of times that I had to be involved last year compared to this year, very different. And I was able to actually get quite a few things accomplished that I wasn't last year. I'm still not to where I think I should be after I took over this position, but I think we're getting closer with closing up the Tim Johnson saga. In terms of pay, that's again, you guys give the dollar amount that you're comfortable with, if any, and then I'll sit down with Mr. Nargis and say, okay, what are you interested? Because I think, again, I don't want to speak for him, but it's also one of those where he likes it here. It's kind of full circle for him in his career, and with some of the things that we can maybe open up so that Ms. Schaefer can actually do some curriculum things instead of behavior, I think would be very beneficial.
So I guess my question is, where is, to be able to say, yes, I'm comfortable with 10 or 15 or 20, where's the money coming from? That's like, you know, I mean, as a business person,
Yeah.
I need to know that I have this area of funds that I feel comfortable being able to spend, even though, I mean,
That's the magical question, Amy. And here, I'll just give you this graphic. That's why this job has been very difficult. Just look at this graph right here. When you're trying to rebuild an educational entity, my first year I underspent by $1 million. When you are constantly looking back and trying to piecemeal where this is, I think to answer your question, fund balance is probably some of it. We have about 29%. Now, again, until we redid our policies, typical fund balance is 18 to 22% is what districts. And so there was times during my first year that I thought we had to go to referendum by the end of that year. When you have a fund balance roughly in the 29%, there's things where curriculum and certain things to get us to the culture that we want, I think it's well worth the money. So to your point, in terms of there's rising costs, I would say some of these curriculum items and certain things like that, fund balance is probably the main cog of where that's going to come from. Now, is there cost-cutting things? Yeah, but if you look at this amount, I mean, this net, think about it as a business person. How do you make sense of this? It's how bad and how much work Deb and I have tried to get to say, okay, number one, what did our budget look like? We had over, what was the number? The number of gaps in terms of the overall budget. And I know you and Nicole haven't heard some of these data points, but how did you underspend by $1 million? Well, it's because Tim and Ron built in these pockets. And plus they overpaid themselves. So you add up those numbers. Well then, okay, we had increases, like even last year. Where did you get the $160,000 to back pay these staff members that broke state statute? Yes, possibly. I think my first year we were right at about a little less than 30% fund balance. And now I think we're at 29, 28%. So I think some of those things, yeah, we're going to have to ask ourselves, is this important? And if it is, let's use some of that fund balance, knowing that I think anybody in the community, and I'll bring that kind of full circle too, Fund 80. We had over 3 million in Fund 80 with no plan. Like, what was the plan for? And I think if people say fund balance and they say that large dollar amount, they're gonna look at you and like, what are you doing? Why are you sitting on this money? What programming could you offer? Well, that's where we looked at the weight room and tried to sit here. And if you look at these pictures, try to start flipping this open enrollment piece. We have 120 people, students that go out, 60 coming in. We have to flip that number. Well, we have to invest in what draws kids or families to this school? Number one, how do you perform? Number two, how's my kid going to be treated? Number three, or number one for kids, what kind of facilities do you have? Does it stick out? What type of gym do you have? And I know they're superficial to some, but so again, I'm asking the board to, in terms of, you think about some of those things, no matter what that amount may be. To your question though, Amy, we are still, and it's going to take 5 years if I'm still in this position to really understand and rework this budget to where we can consistently say, this is how much we need each year to fund what we do. For you two, we're 7.8 million is what CISA 10 is telling us that we should invest in our building in the next 5 years. We don't have 7.8 million. So again, similar to that, the scrubber, you got to pick and choose because we have other equipment that is just crap, and we need to invest in certain. And you kind of, okay, let's take the worst of the worst, or let's pick. Do we need this or do we need this, and start investing in a proper way.
Okay, so you of anyone has your finger on the pulse of the expenses and fund balance and all that stuff. So where do you feel comfortable with spending for this?
It's a great question. It's hard to put a dollar amount. It's very subjective. Having seen what impact those two have had, especially Mr. Nargis, I just think has increased the enjoyment. My goal has always been, I want kids to get to the front of the building and just love coming into the school that day. And it's hard to put a price on some of those things, whether it's relationship driven, and Mr. Fiesel talked about it today. That's why he was here. So he took a personal day from Spooner and came down. I just want to start meeting kids. I want to start meeting staff and building relationships, because that's what successful schools do. And I think Mr. Nargis started that, and it hasn't been here for a while.
Having that overlap, I think, helps to build on that too, right?
It does, and it's just, I wish I could put a dollar amount on it.
One question I have is if we have Mr. Nargis here for however many days a week or however months he's going to be here, and the dollar amount is pulled from somewhere else, what are we going to do next year? Are we going to build on his successes by asking for more administrative time?
No, this is a 1 year.
So what are the plans for the 1 year? Are we building a program during that 1 year that we can carry forward with the staff that we have next year?
You're asking, when we look at where we're at as a district, just think of, let's just take my position. You were asking 70% of my time was based on this Tim Johnson process. So where was the other 30% I'm spending to do this? And even our staff said that, can we just have Patrick to be our superintendent instead of being an investigator? And I didn't ask for that, but it certainly was worth just to get to the bottom and build, because there was good people here. So each year, I think it's tiered off just a little, because we're not only building the ship and sailing it at the same time. And to Jordan's point, that's where I look at it. A 1 year investment to give Jamie a little bit more time to really focus on curriculum and make sure that RE, because this year, REE or educator effectiveness is not where it needs to be. And that's where, again, I would encourage the board at any time, you know, with me out of the room, talk to these individuals that have been in other districts. And how many times you ask yourself here, like, how did you even function? Like, you think about what a school should have as a baseline, it didn't exist here. And you scratch your head like, how did you even function and do what you were doing? And we ask ourselves that all the time. And I also got to see it as a dad. I got to see it as a husband and also be in education. And it's just like, there's just a lot of work to do. And so to do all of that in a short amount of time, that's where I'm coming from when it comes to this recommendation.
Patrick, can I ask, what are we paying Sue for the mentor program next year? Is it
15.
15,000? And what are her hours? How often is she gonna be here?
Oh, she does PLDs. And again, I just took the amount that Tim set aside to say, you know, he gave extra, I don't know what he called them, performance stipends. So 15, I just rolled that into the mentoring and said, okay, we're at this. So we pay our mentors, our teachers, because it's extra time, $875. And then once a month, Sue comes in and does a PLD and works with them for a couple hours. And then she'll come in here periodically and just observe the teacher. And she'll do that partner work and have those conversations.
We don't have like a set, this is any days as you're gonna be doing this?
No, it was more of because we mirrored the program that we had in Richmond, and it wasn't a set amount, but we also didn't want it, you know, two different communities. So let's build it to what fits us. I could find out what that number was in terms of hours, but it's not set. Plus she gave, you know, she just again wanted to be here too. So
Do you think that this position that we're talking about creating for Mr. Nargis would be similar in hours?
yeah, I think I want to give you, for Amy's points, because they are. I mean, you're talking about a referendum and again, talking about, okay, do we need another administrator? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is building off of what we had for 1 year to again catapult us, because we've had to spend time on things that you would just assume are already in place. It's kind of hard to explain. I don't know if that's the best way.
That's the best way to say it. Yeah, everything's at ground zero. Every corner you turn, everything that comes up, it's ground zero. There's not the procedures, or there were very loose procedures or that kind of stuff. So you're constantly, everywhere you get is starting ground zero. Okay, let's make this process. And you look at the curriculum adoption process that we laid out a couple months ago. You know, same thing with that. You need to review a curriculum. Okay, where's the process and procedures? There aren't. Okay, let's make them. So it's just that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then on top of.
I can see the benefit in adding him in. I'm not a numbers guru by any means, but I think if we're paying Sue Curtis for a similar admin position where she's supporting us in this process, right, until we get our foundation solid.
Yeah.
I feel like it's fair to assume that for him, that can help out Ms. Schaefer and high school as well.
Trust me, when it comes to efficiency, that is at the top tier of what I feel my job is. And, you know, it's not wasteful pieces. I think it's one of those where you're building upon what hasn't been here for a long time. And again, I would encourage you, you guys don't have to sit here and set up a meeting with staff, you talk to them individually, that type of thing, and just talk to them and ask them some of the differences between previous years and this year. It's quite extensive.
As a board alone, my first year, I think I sat through, I don't even know how many expulsions. An absurd amount, you know, and behaviors was a constant topic of conversation, and we haven't had that, so.
I just, and this, you know, to Scott's question, this is not an ongoing, I'm not gonna come to you next year, because I even told Mr. Nargis, I said, my recommendation is going to be deterrent on who we hire. If they're completely green, I'm gonna ask for more time. If they are somewhat seasoned, which Josh comes in with 4 years' experience, well, then that number goes down farther for him. So, and again, I want to capitalize on the culture and I would just say the environment at this point, and how we move forward.
So what is your recommendation for the time that you would like him to be here?
I was gonna say, Mike, is it gonna be like?
Asking you for the
Like, I
exact
also
thing.
don't want you to
No.
be here and you're putting your time in and we're not.
I don't think, from a standpoint of, maximum would be 2 days a week. And sometimes I think like, 2 days a week, depending on the week.
This is,
Um, One would be great, just to utilize his expertise. 2, I think would be ideal to where we could actually do some curriculum planning, and make sure that we, and where I could sit down with Josh and actually you had some of this framework already in Glenwood City. And you guys, I think Chuck or Jody may recall, I think Nicole Bright was in a pseudo dean of students role or something. That's kind of what some of this is. And again, the behavior piece takes up a lot of your time. And to where Josh and we tried, Sue and Jamie and myself tried to sit down and have some curriculum meetings and really go through that. Just didn't pan out for a variety of reasons. And again, we're just behind the 8 ball. And we're trying to just, if we have the right person. And again, I'm talking like he's not in the room. But he definitely has a skill set that a lot of people around here haven't seen. And I want to build off of that. And I think we have the right person in Mr. Feasel.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is that everybody wants to have Mr. Nargis here. We're all looking at this mountain, this economic reality of what their school board is and wondering how many more mountains are above that.
Yeah.
We know that about $250,000 was the estimate that we were gonna be short per year going forward. And so would we want, since that's really the thing that we're trying to talk about, is that financial reality, would we want to consider something like we try this for the 2 days per week or approve that amount until we know what the referendum is approved or not? So know if we're gonna have more funding or not, because otherwise anything we spend is just additional amounts we're gonna have to cut out.
Right, yeah. Yeah, there's quite a few. There was 26 districts that failed in operating referendum. And you can see it because we get news updates and, their discussion is cutting. Today I had a meeting with Huddle. We actually are going to save by putting a Huddle camera in the gymnatorium. We're going to save because they've repriced their structure. With that said, you're asked to, okay, you want to go for a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year? I want 1 year. I want a 1 year contract and understand. So we're actually going to be, there's going to be a savings there. So it's just different things like that. And my point is that 1 year contracts, absolutely. If we get to the point where the referendum doesn't pass, all right, we got to make some immediate changes, low hanging fruit.
But I think from my perspective, $15,000, $20,000 when, we're at a deficit, we know we're gonna have a referendum that may or may not, pass. $20,000 is a drop in the bucket when you think, to me, foundationally about, the attitudes of kids and that structure. I think it would be nice to see a little bit of a plan of maybe we front load his time in the beginning of the year. With the new principal coming online is, do we have 2 or 3 days a week at the first half of the year and then taper down where it's more sustaining so that we get a little bit more maybe bang for the buck. You guys can focus a little bit more on curriculum while we can take advantage a little bit more of that time. And then at the end of the year, we're not left with just a big void of not having Mr. Nargis. We're a little bit more used to him not being at school every day or as consistently. That I think helps us to not be in a point of now he's gone and what do we do?
Yeah, November 3rd, we'd know the referendum results. So if we did 2 days per week through the first 3 months, that's roughly $7,500.
When do you need to know this? I mean, if it's for next year, it's.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, again, he's kind of he's gonna work, and I don't wanna speak for him, and it's none of my business, but I will share that interim labels or interim positions happen, and they're open right now, and so they're gonna try and, depending on what Mr. Nargis wants to do, he is retired, but he wants to work and his family situation and so on. So we have to shore it up sooner rather than later, because if this is somebody else, there's very few people that I would be asking this for. It's just because of the way things went this year was such a difference.
And is Sue Curtis's, I haven't been here before, is her mentorship a year, or is that a continual?
That's a it's a continued program. Yeah, I think if you look at our investment into our first, second year teachers and having those discussions, and again, if you evaluate and ask those new people, plus we invested in the teachers themselves. 875, that might not seem like a lot, but again, for the time that these teachers commit themselves to helping that individual, again, it's not about getting rich, it's about acknowledging some of that work. So to your point is, yeah, the sooner the better in terms of making this decision.
Your ask is for a dollar amount.
Correct.
Okay.
And then I'll work the details out with him and say, okay, what are you willing to, if the board says this amount, say it's $10,000, okay, Mr. Nargis, what will you charge per deal? What's your charge per day? And then let's get a calendar in place.
One thing I often hear about the Tim Johnson fraud is took money from our kids. And we approved a check for $21,000 tonight to pay back what was ostensibly for the audit. But it seems to me like this is a good opportunity to use some of that money. In my mind, that's what that is. Paying back and to invest in something that I know is good for kids. We talked a lot about how good it's been for staff. I know it's been exceptional for the kids as well. In my mind, that's how I'm thinking about it, is that 21,000 that we got tonight is a really good way to forward that into a reinvestment for the kids. Whether in Richie's an expert at maintaining great relationships with kids and staff, but something for the kids, because some things were kind of taken from them. In my mind, it's $21,000, and that makes a nice symmetry to me. And then it kind of also answers your question, Amy, where does that money come from?
Well, they don't have 21,000 earmarked for something?
We already paid the.
It's hard to say, because again, even at this point in the budget cycle, because just this year is the first time that I feel like we have created a proper budget. I was willing to come to you for Fund, especially Fund 50, food service. I needed to see it play out for a year, to say, what are we spending? Yes, commodities went up and there's some inflation and so on, but we need to let the budget work, because when you're underspending by $1 million, you cut those gaps down and say, okay, what are you spending on phones? There was a surplus of $8,000 for landline phones. Why would you need that? Why would you need that pocket? Landline phones it's the same. We all have our Wi-Fi bill at home. For me, $45 every month. That's what I paid. It doesn't change. Why do I need $8,000 in case I go over? In case my router burns up? And that's just one example. And so it's just taking time to take that budget, form it to what makes sense. Because when I talk about best practice budgeting, it's taken us that long just to get to a budget, getting rid of all performance stipends, getting to some of these accounts that made no sense. They were in the system wrong. They were being coded wrong. I mean, I seriously, I mean.
I don't think it's bad,
No,
badly
these are
spent
great
money. I think
questions.
this is
Yep.
money well spent.
Yep.
I just, talking to people, to say, well, it's just 20 grand, that's a lot of money to people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money to people, $20,000, now, is it well spent? I think it's great for the year. I mean, it is. I mean, and he's done well and the kids like him and I've heard good things in what you're saying and, giving time. I mean, I don't think it's poorly spent at all.
No.
The perception of the public is give us more money and then, oh, it's only 20 grand. I mean, so that's just my input, so.
I'd say make a motion to, I think $20,000 or $21,000, whatever the restitution was, and see what, kind of support we can get from Richie for that.
Okay, I'm hearing a motion from Jordan for $21,000.
I will second.
Got a second by Chuck Drexler. Any additional conversation?
Do you have like a set, how many days that you're thinking?
No, I'm just thinking,
like, I don't want to cause just from what I've seen, what I've learned, he's probably gonna put more time and be here more than what I don't wanna take advantage.
I think that's where I struggled when we were first talking about this, where, 1 day seems a little less, 2 days seems, or 3 days seems too much. 2 days is kind of that middle ground. And again, I asked myself, if I was Mr. Fiesel, would I be comfortable with the previous person who, seems to be doing pretty well, is sitting in the same school? What does that look like? Well, just the respect level. And I've asked him privately, and I've asked him where we had that discussion with him. And again, I think he looks at Mr. Nargis as a mentor. And so that relationship is already there. And that actually put me over the top to where he's on board and he's like, yeah, why wouldn't I? So he could show me what did he change? What changes were made? How did it work? Because again, this year has gone exceptionally well for a variety of reasons. And a lot of it is the people to my right here, and just the commitment that they've made. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to balance that financial component with the culture component.
So do we have an idea, just a ballpark figure of what it would cost per day?
I think right around 300. We're currently paying, what I did was when we hired interim, it was $600 a day for those two individuals. I basically took the high school principal and I split it up with the calendar and said, okay, what would it cost? It was no benefits. It was just their salary, or Marcy's salary, which was $120,000. Split that up, and that was roughly around 600. And to Ms. Miller's point, we did go over some of those days, which they haven't charged us with. And I think then for that, that's their commitment to us. And I just want to see, and that's truly who Dr. Curtis and Mr. Nargis are. So
I mean, he did get a weekend at mine on house.
he only did like a day.
Take that out.
That had been like,
I donated that.
that house looks great.
So I just did some numbers here. If he did 2 days a week, the month of September, October, November, 6 in December because you got the break in there. January, you got a break, 6, 8 in February, 6 in March because you got spring break. And then 8 and 8, we're at $19,800 at $300 a day.
So we're pretty close.
So 21 is fair. And I second the motion for.
Okay, we got a second, yeah, we got a motion and a second, so if we're ready, have a good discussion.
So when you do your motion, can you please put the dollar amount?
Yeah, it's 21,000.
Okay, you did say that, okay, perfect.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second to approve $21,000 budget for the administrative support. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay? Approval of 21,000 is approved.
Okay, I will come back to you with details after I have a discussion with Mr. Nargis.
Very good discussion, and unfortunately, it's the reality of probably what we're gonna have for many future topics, but it's good. Yeah. Item F.
All right, so I do want to give credit to, and this is something I'd always been a believer in, but credit to where credit is due. Thanks to, I mean, I've been doing this as a soup 13 years, and I've never seen something like this, and I didn't even know. And then Derek comes back from the Laws Vote Convention, or the WSB, and says, hey, just take a look at that. Took a couple of meetings, and it was like, well, this is, and I've been fortunate. In Richmond, I had my finance director with me at every single meeting. So we did this in his way, not bringing in Deb. And again, there's goods and bads in terms of having Deb or Laura here for each meeting. But I think from a checks and balances, similar to the board audit, which we added in, this is just another tool that we can use. So I am by no means an expert. We just got done with this. We did update it last week with March. So these numbers are pretty accurate. A couple things that I want to, my point tonight was just to introduce you to it. And then from here on out, you will see it in the board section. But these are the areas of active funds that we can choose from. Now, we don't have all of these active funds, like a Zone Academy project, we don't have. But these are all the ones that they can pull from. I did want to bring up, so what you're going to get on a daily or a monthly basis is you're going to get the PDF that you see. Okay, it's a 4-page with graphs and so forth. The document that I'm looking at and Dev and Laura are looking at is right here, where we have a dashboard. We can change the budget to benefits, food service, and so forth. And again, I think one of the things that I will be doing is sitting down with Derek now as a board, because my experiences with board presidents are very different than what I've experienced here, and some of the things, the conversations that we have and how we build the agenda together. And so Derek and I will have those conversations. Same thing with the treasurer. You know, these are some of the backdrops. My job is to give you the forefront. And so I can take and look at this dashboard and I can change it to, you know, salaries. Salary and benefits are 80% of our budget. I can change it to, in terms of the type, the original budget, or if I bring, and I have not yet this year brought a readjustment to the budget. I can go back some years, and we did a 3-year look back, and then I can change it to the month. And so we can really dial in some of these expenses and revenue and so forth. Here's the expense dashboard. Here's the revenue dashboard. Here's the cash on hand, which is basically, you know, it's not like your assets in general or what's liquidated, but it's what you have the ability to have, which they basically in school finance, 3 months worth, you should be able to cover, which is why you have a fund balance. Now, again, with some of the changes we've made, we are up to 29% on fund balance. So that gives us some leeway, which means even if a referendum would happen to fail, we have some ability to go back and get ourselves through, but at some point that's going to happen, especially with some of the building things that we have to address. Reporting setup, entries, this is where we actually take Skyward document data, put it in, and then it comes out to this document. So I'm just gonna let you guys, if you have any questions, there's revised budget, year-to-date difference, percentage based on where we are, which with March, we have a little bit left in terms of the end of the year. I do want to give you a couple caveats. Number one, please know that teachers get paid for 24 pay periods, which is throughout the summer. So at the end of June, they will get 6 payrolls in one shot in terms of one time period. And so they get June, they get July, and then they get August. And so that's where, when you look at percentages, you have to keep that in mind. In terms of some others, we haven't yet got a revenue payment from the state for March. It's lagged, so that again, taken into account. But I'm pretty impressed so far with this tool, where it just gives you a very much live view, I would say, month to month. And I think we're just going to get more used to it as we see it.
Well, it's kind of like that burn rate that we've been talking about, like when we have stuff like a bus come up, right? Like, what does that mean? How much have we spent year to date? How do we, I kind of identified that delta, this ain't, what does a bus mean? Or what does $20,000 for Mr. Nargis mean, when we can really stack it up against where we're at month to month?
Years ago, I was able, because we always cut spending off March 1. We did it here April 1 just to get teachers used to it. But usually by the April meeting, for sure the May meeting, we were talking to the board and saying, okay, we're going to have X at the end of the year. And I was pretty blessed. Brian was one of the best finance directors in the state, but he wasn't off very often. Granted, that was his job. That was his full-time job. And so this is just another marker that we can use to help make some of those decisions. And again, to Amy's questions, which were great, we're just not at the point where, again, if you just look at this graphic right here, you look at like, what in the world? You look at the difference. What's going on? How does that work? How does that balance? And again, I could spend hours talking to you about the history of how we got to this point, but we're getting better. We're getting closer to where we have a true solid baseline, especially in this area.
Do you think now that we're kind of getting a good baseline, we've got a good dashboard, that as we start seeing deltas from year to year, we'll kind of have good buckets of, to your point, why are we seeing these differences or changes?
That's my hope. In terms of how even when things were coded wrong, I can't tell you how many times Deb would come in and she's like, this is coded. Prime example, we had Fund 21 balances that weren't even close. Sarah Johnson was in and she's like, I know, I have all the data. We look back, just her face documents didn't match up with what was going into the books. And it was because of some of those, and that's where that, again, the board audit, this, whatever you want to call this, but it's just another checks and balances that we lacked to where we could see that. And then at the end of the year, you're going to have a choice. Do we want to buy a bus? Do we want to put it in Fund 46, where then we get some benefits of the formula from the state and we get reimbursed? If we just don't spend, there's no benefit to it. So again, I think, thank you, Derek. Again, this I think is going to be a great tool based on us not having a full-fledged certified finance director, on staff. But it's just another tool in our toolbox.
Yeah, thanks for incorporating quickly, and the trend lines I think is something that we just didn't have before with the financial statements that we get. So this is really powerful. Anything else on financial tool. Otherwise, we'll move to item G, approval of fall 2026 referendum survey.
Okay, other than, well, actually, Nicole and Amy were here, so they heard this discussion. So Scott was gone at that board work session, but you guys have seen the final product. Our reminder is going to go out tomorrow, the 6th, or this will be the 5th, and then the 6th, the electronic one will go out, and then you should start seeing these in the mailboxes by the end of the week. So again, I'm just asking for approval to, again, acknowledge that the board, this is not Patrick Olson creating this and moving forward with it. This is a board decision.
Entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Jody, the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Scott. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. And the referendum survey is approved. Item H.
This is just another, I think, a great carryover. Last year, we had a opportunity to add summer meals, and it went over very well. Next year, or this summer, we're going to add it to the full summer. So again, anyone under 18 years of age can come here and get a free breakfast or a free meal at the middle of the day. And I can reference not only our free and reduced levels, but also the discussions that we're having as admin that some families are having trouble basically keeping money in their accounts. And so when you have the reimbursement and we're working through the budget, Alyssa's going to be able to do this by herself. So we're going to try to make it cost neutral. And anytime that you can keep food in the bellies of our kids, it's a win-win. With summer school, which is ready to go here by Jamie. When is it?
Signups are out.
Out.
Yep.
The kids are going to be here, so it's going to be advantageous and convenient. So just wanted to put that in front of the board. We've been talking about it, and we got a schedule in place, again, to make it all work. No approval is needed there. Can we keep going?
Patrick, on that one,
Yeah.
if I remember right, this one gets federally reimbursed.
It does, yeah.
And I think actually the more meals we serve, the better off we are.
We want, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the more they look at that and say, yep, we're
Getting a better deal from the government than.
So
Encourage
Summer school
funding for-
enrollment numbers too, right?
Yeah.
So actually, to that point, and that's, it's a good reminder. If I pull up next year's calendar, and Jamie brought this to my attention last year, because I didn't think about it, but because of where we're starting, all these meals in the month of August are free for breakfast and lunch for our kids, K-12. That's a lot of days.
Cut my school, my bill down a little bit.
We'll be feeding these kids. So it's plus it builds our numbers. So again, another advantage with the calendar and where this summer program is helpful.
Thank you for that. Item I.
Birth to 3, we ran into a little bit of a hiccup. But I do want to point out the conversation went towards, we had to ask, and I've again included you guys in the emails. So again, I add you guys to these conversations so you can see them in real time. But what's interesting about this is we are not able to move on the timeline that we thought. We are now having to extend it through August. Thanks to Glen Haven, they agreed to extending that relocation process for us. The biggest reason is we don't have a fire suppression system. And so we talked about that at our board work session. And because of some of the requirements that we need for Wold to sign off or the inspector, fire suppression would have definitely helped. And unfortunately, we're not in that position. With that said, we're still trying to work through some of these delays. Yes, it's more of, we'll get there over the summer. It's just not on the timetable that we had hoped. So just, again, I've kept you guys in the loop via email, but I wanted to make sure that at the board level, we talked about some of these timetables and how it works through the process with Wold, Market and Johnson, and the state inspector.
Did it affect anything to do with your staffing over the summer that you guys were anticipating because you'd be in one location?
No,
All's good.
no, I think Beth has a good plan. Her and Aaron have talked through some of the things. I think one of the bigger disappointments was the convenience for parents, and the space itself. But we're in a pretty good spot. I mean, that's a nice facility over there. There are some projects that Glen Haven is planning, so they're trying to work with us in that regard. But yeah, it's just not on our timetable. Plus, we'll have to spend another $6,000 in rent. But we had to let Glen Haven know by March, so we had to let them know anyway. So it's just one of those things you deal with.
Okay, letter J.
I've been talking about the phone system upgrade, and again, with Nicole and Amy, if I have to reference eBay, it's my inside joke of saying, if you gotta buy stuff off eBay, it's dated. We are no longer able to support the software with our current phone system. That was one of the reasons that we spent a good chunk of money to do our PA system, which is a high security requirement. The phones are just as valuable in that communication protocol. With that said, we are working through this plan. We're talking about different vendors, talking about different ways to maximize it, including Zoom phone, which is one of the projects that I tackled before I left New Richmond, and whether it's the online component and the online meetings. Not everybody likes Google Meet, Zoom obviously with COVID and so forth. So there's a lot of processes in place. So again, I just wanted to make you aware. We've been talking about it, just keeping you guys up to date. There's some of the costs there in terms of what would it cost to get, because we would have to replace phones themselves. So again, this is not by any means the last time you'll see this.
Okay.
And then the last one is, I waited till the new board reorganization, and I'm asking the board how you would like to address compensation. So I'm open to any type of example. My suggestion would be that we have individual meetings with board members, including the president, vice president, and the treasurer. And because it's not a quorum, they would meet with me. It's worked for me in the past. And again, I'm not saying that was the answer, but it worked well because then we would go through line by line, just so they would understand, like a subcommittee, and then report back. May 15th is the requirement by statute to get out contracts. So the contracts are already sitting on our desks. Krista has been working on those to get them out. We're using last year's numbers. And then my hope is that through May, June, by summer, we could come to board approval of what percentage we would like to look for in terms of staff increases, so that we can get those ready to go by July 1 would be my hope, for sure by September 1. So is there a consensus amongst the board of how you would like to do this? Otherwise, the other choice would be just have work sessions and we can go through them. I'm fine with whatever you guys choose. I just need to know to plan accordingly.
Yeah, I know, I think we talked about it, was it 2 months ago? And we said that, yeah, I think the positions you had mentioned was an agreement, but unless others have a feeling for something else.
Yeah, I'm good with
Fine with
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Good with
The.
president, vice president, treasurer.
Yep.
It will be separately with myself and, well, it'll be Deb and Laura. We'll go through everything line by line to see where you're at, and then, because there are a couple positions that I think we need to work to get up to be more a little competitive. So we'll have those discussions, bring it back to the full board. Okay.
Yep.
All right, I will look to send those out and get those things on the calendar.
Thanks, Ben. That includes the business action items. Don't have anything for communications. And scheduled meetings. I think Patrick had said our next meeting is the 18th. So it'll come pretty quickly.
So the 18th will be our next meeting, and then I want to verify, but school perceptions is saying they'll have survey results by the 8th. So we're kind of looking at the first or the second week in June to have a work session and go through all of the data from the survey.
So we'll move the 8th a week back.
Well, I want to get it from school perceptions before I let you know, but I know how summer, I mean, it just goes by fast and you're planning vacations and so on. So I just need to narrow that down with school perceptions so that I can get that on your calendars.
Were you thinking between the 2 June dates, we'd have a working session?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Guess we finished our agenda, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jody. Do you have a second? Second by Scott. Any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. By nay. Meeting is adjourned.
Chris, did you get everything? Signatures?
Probably. Because some of these people are just want to talk about
How long have you been?
I have to pay
The numbers and dollars and cents on it.
Exploring. I don't